I love dialogue. I love talking, I love listening to people talk, so I feel like my plays tend to be quite dialogue heavy. And sometimes that means that during a rehearsal process, I'll realize I can cut a load of dialogue, because actually once we have the actors embodying those characters and a director who's working with them, actually they're conveying the stuff that my dialogue is trying to convey without it necessarily needing the dialogue.
I think with dialogue, less is more, and I'm always happy to get rid of dialogue if it's obvious in the action, or if you can do something with a gesture or just with action on stage. I'm usually quite happy to get rid of dialogue.
I feel like all my plays, even if they're quite realistic, they're not naturalistic, so they're rooted in something real, but they're always slightly heightened. They're always slightly more colorful than people necessarily speak in their everyday life. I love wit. And so I feel like characters in my plays are always witty and have fun turns of phrase and say the things that I wish I could come up with off the cuff, which they manage to come up with off the cuff in the play, because I have lots of time to sit down and figure out what they're going to say.
I think it's really easy to make the mistake that the job of the playwright is to capture language which sounds accurately like how language sounds in life. That can be a skill, it can be a flair, it can be an element or a characteristic of dialogue, but it's got to be more than that. Dialogue is always heightened on stage. The audience knows that the actors on stage are not real characters in a real situation, in real life. They're not oblivious to that. They're engaging in a metaphor. When you watch a play, you're engaging in a metaphor, so you don't need to write language as those people would speak in real life. And also, people speak in a whole array of different languages.
If you read through a piece of work and all the voices are the same, I think you really need to think about that. And just, you know, when you're on the bus or the tube, you just listen to all the different voices and the rhythms and the different ways people talk.
There's a sort of sliding scale from, you know, really naturalistic to really stylised, and my dialogue is sort of, depending on what's going on or which particular play it is, it's kind of somewhere on the scale.
If you sit down and you want to write, you say, my mum and dad had a conversation last night and I want to get that down exactly. There's something really interesting about that. You've got to write what you want to write.
A way to kind of discover who the characters are is by letting them open their mouths and start talking. I think of it as being a bit like when actors are improvising, so you know, you're just trying stuff out and you're seeing, I mean, so effectively I'm improvising, it's just that I'm doing all the characters in my head and then writing it down.
If I come up against a wall, I fix it by just writing the dialogue. I just write, and then it's a process of taking away. Your dialogue has to have the feel of people just coming up with stuff off the top of their head, but actually it has to be woven into the fabric of this story that you're telling. The more you can do that, the more you can lull the audience into a false sense of security about what's being said, and the better your play is going to be, because you're going to be able to surprise them more easily.